Tribe, I become invincible with my 10,000 times bonus from the start. Chapter 231, The Benevolent Phantom Goddess. Li Cheng's current plan was to use the Kingdom of Kent as the center and conquer the surrounding NPC kingdoms. This was much more than just a small fight and farming in a few secret realms. Mage City had the protection of the goddess of magic, so Li Cheng could not openly attack them. However, the beliefs of other kingdoms were extremely chaotic, and no god was willing to get involved. Li Cheng looked at the rising sun. He planned to go to the City of Light. The huge overnight change in the Kingdom of Kent was enough to shock the entire Lost Continent. In the Lost Continent, it was normal for the royal seat to change hands, but the war this time was unprecedented. The troops of the Shadow World really drew a lot of attention. In the high-level meeting room of the Church of Light in the City of Light. The meeting room was exceptionally lively. The high-level priests and commanders of the 9 churches were all gathered together. Bishops, commanders, the war in the Kingdom of Kent is most definitely a planar war. That's right. Almost half of the elite troops of the Shadow World had been deployed. They even massacred hundreds of billions of human beings. We can't just ignore it. Netherworld's simply an opportunist. He doesn't have any kindness or justice in his heart. He only has his own interests in mind. That's right. He must give us an explanation for this matter. Otherwise, he won't be able to get away with it. They were all filled with righteous indignation. They could not wait to send their troops to attack Li Cheng's territory. At this moment, in the delegation of the Church of Light, Commander Vic and the 2 archbishops exchanged glances. In the end, they nodded indiscernibly. I believe you are all aware of the situation at Duke Netherworld's territory. Who wants to attack it? Hearing this, the entire conference room fell silent in an instant. The corners of the mouths of all the high priests and commanders twitched. The recent monster siege was still vividly playing in their minds. Li Cheng's territory was probably 10,000 times stronger than the City of Light. Almost all the gods from the evil forces were there, but not one of them could even take down Li Cheng's territory. Naturally, no one was prepared to die. However, soon, a man who was emitting a cold-killing intent stood up and said, "But we, the good camp, will not allow the planar war to happen again." Hearing this, all the bishops agreed. As long as the 9 churches work together, we might be able to take down this netherworld. That's right. He was able to defeat the allied forces of the evil faction the last time because of the gods of the good faction. Without the help of the gods, he's just a small tier 3 lord. There's nothing to be afraid of. I don't agree. The gods only arrived during the last wave. Didn't you all watch how the earlier waves turned out? The majestic conference room became noisy again with all kinds of arguments. Suddenly, the door of the conference room was suddenly kicked open with a loud bang. Then, it collided heavily with the wall. Everyone's pupils constricted as they all looked toward the door. Was that not the netherworld they were denouncing at the moment? Li Cheng calmly walked into the conference room and came before a man dressed in light green clothes. He blinked. The man in front of him was the high-level priest of the Forest Church. His entire body was green. Even wore a dazzling green hat on his head. Li Cheng said coldly, "Green hat old man, make way." "Why?" the man asked angrily. Out of so many people, why did Netherworld target him? Was Netherworld trying to bully him or something? Li Cheng pointed at the Duke medal on his chest. "Because I'm a Duke?" "What? Does the Forest Church not abide by the rules set by the 9 gods?" The man's face was as green as his hat, he looked as if he had eaten **T. Anyone could see the anger in his eyes. However, a few seconds later, he still obediently gave up his seat. According to the rules of the church, the rights and status of the God-blessed Duke were higher than those of the ordinary high-level priests. Even the holy sons and saintesses were on equal footing. Li Cheng calmly looked at the priests of the 9 churches. They were the strongest churches of the good faction. It was worth mentioning that the 9 churches were not only comprised of gods from the good camp. There were also some neutral gods, such as the god of war and the goddess of forests. As a reincarnated person, Li Chang knew that the so-called 9 churches were not as united as they appeared to be. Every god had their own demands. For example, the war church, the church of the man who initiated the denunciation of Li Cheng. Their goal was to start a war. Regardless of whether it was against the evil camp, the neutral camp, or the good camp, as long as there was a war, they would be all smiles. As for the goddess of forests, naturally, her goal was to protect the forests. She would immediately pick up a butcher's knife and hunt anyone who invaded the forests, even if it was someone from the 9 churches. She did not care who they were. Anyone who destroyed the forest deserved to die. As for the goddess of magic, she was just a bystander. As long as the magic network was not threatened, she was like an invisible person who did not care about anything. Thinking of this, Li Cheng smiled disdainfully. He could not be bothered to say much to these people. He simply took out 10 extremely terrifying and ugly objects from his backpack. Rumble rumble. The sound of rumbling could be heard endlessly. In the next moment, 10 mythical-grade insect nests appeared on the floor of the meeting room. Watching this scene, everyone present felt their scalps go numb. Mythical-grade insect nests. 10 of them. Commander Vic did not think much. He pulled out his sword and a dazzling light flashed as the holy sword's light instantly pierced through the 10 insect nests. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Li Cheng did not activate these insect nests. If he did, the entire conference room would definitely suffer. Li Cheng said, "This is what I found under the capital city of the Kingdom of Kent, Hindley City." The benevolent phantom goddess was worried about the rise of the Zergs. Hence, for the safety of the entire continent, she didn't hesitate to use her troops. With those troops, she destroyed the conspiracy of the Zergs. Oh right, there are hundreds of thousands of mythical-grade Zerg nests in my backpack. Do you want to take a look? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's scalps went numb again. It was as if bugs were crawling on their heads. The priest of the Church of Life was so scared that his little face turned pale. "No, no, Duke Netherworld, don't take them out again." As for the others, other than being shocked, they were also cursing in their hearts. To hell with the benevolent phantom goddess, a neutral goddess who had been a goddess for thousands of years. Yet, she had never made a single contribution to the good camp. Chapter 232, Short-Term Targets. Everyone present knew that during the Zerg War back then, the phantom goddess did not even extend the slightest bit of help. Now, she would risk her life to clean up the Zergs? No one would believe such nonsense. More importantly, Li Cheng said that the phantom goddess was merciful. How incredibly shameless! They had never seen such a shameless person before. Moreover, it was not like these people did not know Ella's strength. She had trillions of troops. They would not believe it even if they were beaten to death. However, when they were all thinking of this, Li Cheng's cold voice was heard again. "As for wanting to attack my territory, you're all welcome to do so anytime. Oh, right, before I forget. My city wall has just been upgraded to an immortal grade wall, so it's best to get your gods to help you. Otherwise, you pieces of trash won't even have time to shed blood." Hearing this, everyone's pupils constricted again. An immortal grade city wall? For real? They had never even heard of its existence before. After saying those words, Li Cheng was not bothered to look at their expressions. He glanced at everyone indifferently before walking out of the meeting room. The 9 churches sounded very scary, but Li Cheng had enough understanding of them. It was already good enough that they did not have internal strifes, but they were thinking of attacking his territory. Li Cheng really thought highly of them before this. After walking out of the meeting room, Li Cheng looked around, but he could not find Sylvia. He did not know where this little girl had gone, but he did not think too much about it and returned to his territory. After a series of battles, Li Chang was indeed a little tired, so he just walked into Lillian's huge quarters. When Li Chang woke up again, it was already nighttime. The moonlight in the sky was exceptionally soft and clear. Lillian was sleeping soundly beside Li Chang. After tidying up briefly, Li Chang prepared to continue farming. There were many things he needed to do now. First, there were 2 SSS-class missions. One was the mysterious Spatial Rift secret realm on the western side of the continent, the other was Ella's mission to raid the laboratory of the Profound Empire. There was also Li Cheng's trial secret realm and a few hero boundary breakthroughs. Lillian and Luna's levels had already been maxed out, reaching level 80. This time, there was not even a chance to see the boundary breakthrough. The requirement was for the Lord to reach level 80. Only then would they be able to unlock the new missions. The only thing left was Sylvia's breakthrough. Her mission required her to search for ancient ruins of the Dragon Empire. Li Chang already had some relevant clues. In the past few days, he had entrusted Tyavanas to search for some clues. With Li Cheng's memories from his previous life, the location should be around the corner. However, it was not easy to complete any of these missions. Thinking of this, Li Chang planned to rest for a day. There were still some rebels in the Kingdom of Kent that he needed to clean up. At the same time, he also wanted to observe the reactions of the 9 great churches. Time flew by and a day quickly passed. During this day, Li Chang had opened the teleportation gate between the Kingdom of Kent and Little Rain's territory. The players could now head to Hindley City through her territory. Whether it was receiving the Church's quest or the Empire's quest, it was countless times more convenient. Of course, there was a fee for using the teleportation gate. The fee was still within the player's capabilities to pay, and the fees collected would all be used as the guild's public funds. Be it Little Rain or Li Cheng, neither of them was short of money. There was also a restriction on the teleportation gate. The teleportation gate was not open to members of the Prideful Guild and War Soul Guild. If they wanted to go to the Kingdom of Kent to receive a quest, they had to walk there by themselves, and with their marching speed, they would need at least a week to arrive. One after another, the players received various quests from the Kingdom of Kent. The bountiful rewards of the quests shocked the players. Naturally, the players of the Divine Dragon Alliance rushed to the Kingdom of Kent. Hence, there were not many people in the City of Light. Comparing the two sides, the rewards given by Li Cheng were more generous and rewarding. The City of Light would never simply give away countless basic resources. As for the Church of Light, they seemed to only know how to hand out titles. A divine title sounded very impressive and powerful, but these titles were not things that ordinary players could exchange for. Currently, other than Li Cheng and Pearl, there was not a third person in the entire world who had exchanged for a divine title. As for Pearl's title, she only managed to obtain it after receiving countless tokens from Li Cheng. At the same time, Extreme Gods Guild's strength had grown even stronger. All of its members were strong and well equipped. Some players were also keeping records of all the privileges that Extreme Gods Guild currently enjoyed. Every week, the guild would enter a super large-scale guild secret realm twice. At the very least, they would all be able to obtain the recruitment authority of Tier 5 soldiers. Free teleportation, double the rewards from the Kingdom of Kent's quests, free stationing and resupplying in the Kingdom of Kent, and free consumables. These privileges made the other players so envious that their eyeballs almost fell out. Even the Rose Guild next door drooled at the sight of these privileges. There was a general consensus among everyone in the Divine Dragon Alliance that there would be meat to eat if they followed Li Cheng. At this moment, Li Cheng had reassembled all his troops. He led his troops through the teleportation portal and arrived at the Phantom Church in Hindley City. The sudden appearance of countless troops gave the guards a fright. When they saw that it was Li Cheng, they all heaved a sigh of relief. Li Cheng was sizing up Hindley City, nodding his head indiscernibly. It seemed that Lena was doing well. The city had already returned to its normal order. The merchants were once again hawking their wares. Very soon, Lena, who was wearing a gorgeous empress dress, walked over. Her walking speed was very slow, even a little shaky. It was obvious that she had not adapted to the complicated empress dress she was wearing. Li Chang laughed at her clumsy appearance and said with a smile, "Forget it, you don't have to come over. I'm just passing by. I won't send you off, then." Lena snorted coldly. Li Chang was indeed merely passing by. His goal for this trip was located to the west of the main road, the Spatial Rift. After leaving Hindley City, Li Chang casually crushed an Immortal grade speed scroll. Instantly, all the troops were enveloped by a breeze as their movement speed increased by 1000%. They were careful not to run too fast. Chapter 233, The Most Treacherous Secret Realm. An hour later, Li Chang had passed by countless monsters and players' territories. Many mirrors appeared in front of him, reflecting the sunlight into countless broken lines. At the same time, the system's voice rang in Li Chang's ears. "Ding, dong! You've entered the special area, Spatial Rift. Please, be careful." As the system's voice fell, Li Chang let out a sigh of relief. He had finally arrived. The lost continent was too big. The Divine Dragon Alliance was just a speck in this world, and it would take a long time to explore everything. Li Chang looked at the information of the secret realm. Shattered space. Description: for some reason, the space here has been shattered. No one knows what secrets are hidden in it. Level: 60. Difficulty: Nightmare. Entry requirements: territory level greater than 40. Dungeon nature: Guild collective quest. Dungeon CD: cannot be challenged repeatedly. A level 60 Nightmare secret realm required 1000 players to raid. It was considered a super large-scale secret realm. Moreover, Li Chang already knew about this secret realm. If he wanted to clear it, he would need at least a few hours. The reward for clearing it was also extremely mysterious. In his previous life, no one revealed it and had kept it a secret. Thinking of this, Li Chang entered the secret realm. Suddenly, the space distorted, and in the next moment, Li Chang's position changed. At the same time, the system notification rang in his ear. Ding, dong! You've entered the secret realm, Shattered Space. The current difficulty is Nightmare. Ding, dong! Due to unknown reasons, the attributes of all monsters in the secret realm have increased by 50% while your army's attributes have decreased by 50%. Ding, dong! Mystical Realm Countdown. 23 hours and 59 minutes. Please, complete the challenge within the stipulated time. Ding, dong! Current Secret Realm Challenge success requirements are unknown. Ding, dong! Following the series of system notifications, golden light appeared under the feet of all of Li Chang's units. Their attributes had been decreased by 50%. This was the debuff that all nightmare-level secret realms had. Then, countless transparent creatures appeared in Li Chang's line of sight. Their bodies were like water. When they moved, their bodies even rippled like waves. If one did not look carefully, these creatures would not be discovered at all. Li Chang cast a scouting spell over Spatial Rift Crawler, Tier 8. The attributes of a max-level Tier 8 soldier were obviously higher than that of an average player's army. Moreover, their equipment column was equipped with a piece of gold-grade equipment called the Spatial Pattern. The Spatial Pattern could increase their evasion rate by 30%. What was more troublesome was that they would immediately release more enemy units, the type that would be scattered all over the map. This was also a characteristic of Tribe. In the later stages, legendary soldiers full of divine equipment would run all over the place in the secret realms. At this time, a few of these crawling monsters caught sight of Li Chang's troops. Their bodies immediately fluctuated, and in the next moment, a few frost dragons were teleported into their group of monsters. When the monsters saw this, they immediately pounced on them. This was the most disgusting part of the monsters here. They would teleport a player's units into their group and start attacking immediately. When normal key players encountered such a situation, they would definitely be caught unprepared. However, how could Li Cheng's troops be considered normal? Roar! A clear dragon's roar was heard. The frost dragons that were currently covered by the group of monsters did not lose any HP at all. This was also the monster's weakness. If the player's troops were too strong, their teleportation skill would become a suicide skill. The frost dragon's roar instantly shocked countless monsters, and the system notifications immediately started ringing. Ding, dong! Your team has killed 1000 Tier 8 Spatial Rift Crawlers and obtained experience points. Ding, dong! Li Chang did not hesitate to order his heroes to start attacking. In an instant, countless attacks flew everywhere, and a few minutes later, all the crawlers had been cleared out. Then, a spatial ripple appeared. At the very center of it, 3 distorted transparent teleportation gates appeared. Ding, dong! Congratulations! You've cleared all the monsters in this space. The door leading to the next region has been opened. He had to choose one door out of the 3. This was the most disgusting part of this secret realm. Every time a player cleared a region, 3 teleportation gates would appear, and they were all identical without any serial numbers. Each teleportation gate would teleport the player to a brand new region, and this secret realm had a total of 1000 such spaces, but there was only one path that could lead them to the dungeon. That was 1 out of 3 paths to the power of 1000. The probability of locating the dungeon was simply too low. If one did not know the correct path, venturing into this secret realm would be useless no matter how strong one was. One could only wander around aimlessly. With every brand new region, the monsters would respawn, and occasionally, one would encounter an extremely terrifying boss. What was even more disgusting was that there was no reward for killing the boss, because they would just respawn endlessly. The next time the players were teleported, they would meet those bosses again. On top of that, the bosses would be resurrected with full health. Because of this mechanism, this secret realm was once rated as the most treacherous secret realm in the whole game. However, as the 2 worlds merged, Li Chang had gained a lot of intelligence. His mind had become extremely abnormal. Many memories from his previous life were gradually ringing in his mind. For example, the sequence of the 3 portals in front of him. In his previous life, a player had named the 3 portals A, B, and C and had shared the correct path of the secret realm. In his previous life, Li Chang had also cleared it once. However, he was looking at the guide when he cleared it in the past, and there were a total of 1000 letters. A normal human would not be able to remember them. Many people were unconvinced, saying that they had graduated from a famous school and had an IQ of more than 100 or 200. In the end, they still had to follow the guide dejectedly. However, at this moment, Li Cheng's mind was exceptionally clear. Every letter shined vividly in his mind. He took a deep breath and led his troops through one of the teleportation portals. 2 hours later. Ding, dong! Your troops have successfully killed the mythical grade boss, the 6-clawed spatial rift monster, and obtained experience points. Ding, dong! Boom! Along with a muffled thud, a mythical grade boss slowly fell to the ground. Its body was extremely huge, and it merged with the entire dimension of the secret realm as soon as its body hit the ground. Li Chang let out a long sigh. Even if he went all out to kill the monsters, the progress of going through 1000 regions in this secret realm was still very slow. However, he glanced at the 3 plain teleportation portals in front of him. If he remembered correctly, this was the last one. Chapter 234, The Imprisoned Goddess of Space. Looking at the last portal, Li Chang led his troops in without any hesitation. Then, another spatial distortion occurred. Li Chang let out a long sigh of relief in his heart. He sized up the scene in front of him. There was a vast, flat space, and at the very center of it, there was a slender figure that was tightly bound by golden chains. Seeing this, Li Cheng's pupils constricted. He hurriedly cast a scouting spell, and the information of the woman in front of him immediately appeared. Goddess of Space. Description: a creature born at the beginning of the universe. She wields the power of space and is extremely powerful. Grade: Immortal. Level: HP. Attack. Defense. Skills. Seeing this name, Li Cheng's breathing stopped. The Goddess of Space was a very powerful god. She had the power to control space, yet, she was actually imprisoned here? The Goddess of Space seemed to have sensed his arrival. She slowly raised her head and looked at Li Cheng, saying, "Human, I didn't expect anyone to come here." Her body was covered by a mysterious energy, and her face could not be seen clearly. Li Cheng frowned and asked, "What happened here?" "As you can see, I'm imprisoned here," the Goddess of Space replied. "You can't escape." Li Cheng was a bit puzzled. If it were other gods, that was expected, but the Goddess of Space being imprisoned? That was a bit ridiculous. For a god who could control space, so much so that she could easily crush a small plane just by controlling space, she was actually imprisoned? The Goddess of Space did not care to explain. She simply said to Li Cheng, "You can try." Li Cheng raised his eyebrows and gave Lillian a look. Lillian nodded, held her long sword tightly, and fiercely hacked at the golden chains. Ding! The crisp sound of metal hitting metal immediately rang out, and instantly, a huge dent was formed on the golden chain. Seeing this, the Goddess of Space was slightly surprised. Being imprisoned, she was the most familiar with the golden chains. She never expected that the girl in front of her could actually hurt these chains. However, in the next moment, a faint golden light flashed and the dent on the chains was slowly fading. In an instant, the chains already returned to their original pristine state. It was as if nothing had happened. Li Cheng was shocked. "What's this?" The Goddess of Space explained, "The time around me has been frozen. It will heal itself every second." Hearing this, Li Cheng could not help but feel a little shocked. Even though he had been a human for 2 lifetimes, he had never heard of such a situation. However, he soon thought of a possibility and he quickly asked, "Was this done by a god who has mastered the power of time?" "How do you know this?" The Goddess of Space was slightly moved. She did not understand how a human could know this. Li Cheng confirmed his thoughts. The hourglass of time in his backpack had to be a divine artifact used by a god. However, the god who controlled time, as well as the grade of the artifact, was still unknown. A name had already appeared in Li Cheng's mind, and that was the god of creation. Otherwise, who else in the entire universe could do it? Li Cheng could not think of anyone else, so he frowned and asked, "Who's the god who controls time? How can I save you?" "I don't need to be saved, and no one can save me," the Goddess of Space said as she slowly shook her head. Li Cheng, on the other hand, frowned. Was he going to be like Xiang Lai in his previous life? Gaining nothing and returning empty-handed? Li Cheng immediately shook his head. He had been reincarnated, with a special system on top of that. How could he go through a setback here? He took a deep breath and said to the Goddess of Space, "Goddess, bear with me. This might hurt a little." His words should not be misunderstood. Li Cheng did not have such bad intentions. After saying that, Li Cheng ordered all his troops to focus their fire on the chains. Instantly, all kinds of attacks flew across the air. The turbulent energy instantly enveloped the Goddess of Space's slender body. Watching this scene, the goddess's mouth twitched slightly. Was this human trying to kill her? Then, she widened her eyes. She could feel that she was actually injured. One had to know that this was her real body, an absolute immortal existence, and a very powerful one at that. Yet at this moment, it was actually being damaged by a human? With the support of the Heart of Massacre, countless troops went all out. Even the Goddess of Space's health bar was slightly affected. In the next second, a huge number appeared above the Goddess of Space's head. Plus 99,999 trillion. The Goddess of Space shook her head slightly and said, "Everything's in vain. For tens of thousands of years, I've tried countless times. In vain." Li Chang narrowed his eyes and sneered. After clearing the secret realm, he did not get anything. He had reached the final region with great difficulty and now, he was going to return empty-handed? This was not what he wanted. Hence, Li Chang was going to confront the golden chains. He was trying to see if these chains were stronger or if his troops were stronger. Thinking of this, he continued and ordered his troops to focus their fire once more. Time flew by quickly. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours. Li Chang's troops continued to attack for 2 whole hours. At this stage of the Lost Continent, there was not a single person who could face such firepower. Even the Goddess of Space was speechless. If she did not have the protection of divine power, her face would have already been swollen from all the attacks. Suddenly, a huge green number appeared again. Plus 90,000 trillion. Everyone was stunned. This green number was still huge, but it was obviously much smaller than before. Seeing this, Li Chang's eyes lit up. Brute force really did work. He did not hesitate another moment longer and continued to order his troops to focus their fire. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours passed in a flash. Li Chang's troops did not stop for even a second. Li Chang casually waved his hand and a pitch-black energy ball hit the golden chains. Suddenly, with a crack, the sound of glass shattering was heard. Then, the golden chains instantly shattered into pieces. The Goddess of Space's slender body fell forward in an instant. Li Chang reacted quickly and carried her before she hit the ground. Well, not to mention how light she was, after being imprisoned for tens of thousands of years, the softness of her body had not changed at all. It was even comparable to Lillian's. Chapter 235, The Supreme Blessing of the Goddess of Space, Highest Level. When Li Chang broke the golden chains, a series of sounds from the system could be heard. Ding, dong. You've successfully rescued the Goddess of Space and fulfilled the conditions for clearing the secret realm. Ding, dong. Your performance in the secret realm is perfect. Your rating is SSS. Ding, dong. World announcement. Extreme God has successfully passed the SSS class collective guild mission. As the first guild in the world to pass the SSS class guild mission, all Extreme God players will receive 1 reputation point and the recruitment authority of the Tier 8 Spatial Rift Crawler. Ding, dong. You've triggered a 10,000 times increase and obtained 10,000 reputation points and the recruitment authority of the Crown Soldiers, Faceless. Ding, dong. You've unlocked the new building, Spatial Realm. As the system series of notifications fell, the secret realm was cleared and all the players from Extreme God were dumbfounded. F***CK, Netherworld boss was fighting with the NPC Kingdom yesterday, and now he's cleared the SSS class collective quest. Guild leader, aren't you a little too fierce? This is a collective quest. Rose Guild couldn't even clear a dungeon with 1,000 players, yet you cleared it alone. Wow! Netherworld boss blew us away this time. Each of us gets the recruitment authority for the Tier 8 soldiers. This is awesome. Joining Extreme God was the best decision I've ever made in my life. Everyone gets reputation points, too. This is awesome. When the members of Extreme God heard the system's voice, they were naturally overjoyed. However, when the other guilds heard the system, they all felt bad. Even Purple Rose sighed. The first SSS class collective guild quest was open to all guilds. When Li Chang was fighting with the Kingdom of Kent, Rose Guild naturally gave it a try. The final result was a crushing defeat. The 1,000-man elite troops were all lost in the endless secret realm. Hearing the system's notification, Purple Rose was completely convinced by Li Cheng's ability. The pride and arrogance in her heart had completely disappeared. This man. Is he really human? Li Cheng did not look at the reward he received. Instead, he frowned and looked at the golden chains that were all over the ground. Even the goddess of space could not break free from the chains that could stop time. Did they come from the same god his hourglass of time came from? Li Cheng suddenly felt a lightness in his arms. The goddess of space had already disappeared from his grasp. She stood in front of Li Cheng and murmured, "These chains are broken. Perhaps, you're the person in the prophecy." After pausing for a moment, the goddess of space said, "Human, I'm going to reclaim my divine kingdom. After I'm done, I'll look for you." As soon as she finished speaking, the system's voice rang in Li Cheng's ears. "Ding, dong. You've received the goddess of space's intermediate blessing. Ding, dong. You've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and received the highest level supreme blessing of the goddess of space." As the system's voice fell, the goddess of space's slender body trembled as she was about to leave. She froze in her footsteps. All of a sudden, she felt as if she and the man in front of her had an extremely cordial relationship, as if they had been husband and wife for many years. The goddess of space gazed at Li Cheng, muttering absent-mindedly, "As expected, those who ignore fate and the rules, perhaps the entire universe will change because of you. If that's the case, I'll fight you. Imprisoning me here for tens of thousands of years, was it all for today?" As soon as she finished speaking, her body had already transformed into a strange spatial ripple, instantly disappearing. At the same time, Li Cheng's system notification sounded once again. "Ding, dong. You've obtained the Immortal Grade Space God Key." Li Cheng was also dumbfounded by the goddess of space. He did not know what she was doing. She kept muttering to herself. Was she trying to be a riddler? However, Li Cheng's heart was not calm. The goddess of space had definitely noticed his 10,000 times amplification system. This was his biggest secret since his rebirth. He had never mentioned it to anyone. Nevertheless, Li Cheng did not panic. As more and more gods focused their attention on him, it was only a matter of time before his golden finger was exposed, just like Trella Fanny and Ella. The two goddesses must have noticed it long ago, but they never mentioned a word about it. Recalling what the goddess of space had done, it did not seem like she was going to attack him. Moreover, with Li Cheng's current strength, he was not afraid of any gods at all. As long as the other party was on the main plane, Li Cheng promised to teach him how to behave. Li Cheng shook his head and did not think too much about it. He checked his harvest. First was the supreme blessing of the goddess of space. Up until now, Li Cheng had received the supreme blessing of the three goddesses. The goddess of space was probably even more powerful than the goddess of death. Presumably, the effect of her blessing would not be too bad. The goddess of space's supreme blessing, highest level. Description: only the people closest to the goddess of space can enjoy the blessing. Effect 1: you have the highest authority in the Church of Space. All troops will listen to your orders and their loyalty and morale will be permanently full. Effect 2: as the spokesperson of the goddess of space, your every action in the world will represent her. The attitude of other gods toward you may change. Effect 3: all your units are immune to any spatial type damage. Effect 4: you have the highest authority on any spatial type of arrays, skills, items, devices. Effect 5: all units can be teleported to the Church of the Goddess of Space at any time, place, and state. Effect 6: when attacked, there is a 90% chance of being transferred to another space, completely immune to the attack. Effect 7: all units below Immortal grade cannot see your personal, hero, army, and territory information. Seeing the effect of the blessing, Li Chang was stunned. He had to say that the goddess of space was indeed a powerful god that was born at the beginning of the universe. She was incredibly powerful. Chapter 236, Another Tier 9 Immortal Weapon. All sorts of blessings would greatly increase immunity to damage received in battle, but a 90% chance of being completely immune was simply too absurd. Immunity was a much stronger attribute than dodging, and there was no limit to this effect. In other words, even if the goddess of darkness's true body appeared, he would be immune to 9 out of 10 of her attacks. Looking at this attribute, the more powerful the enemy was, the more ridiculous it would be. Next was obtaining the highest authority of all teleportation devices. When he saw this, Li Cheng's breathing stopped. This was truly ridiculous. Be it teleportation doors or teleportation arrays, they all used a certain amount of spatial knowledge. However, Li Cheng had directly grasped the rules of space. With just a thought, he could obtain the highest authority of these teleportation devices. Just like the war against the Kingdom of Kent. If it were to happen now, he could easily close the teleportation portal in Hindley City and the reinforcements from the other cities could only use their 2 legs to slowly run over. There were also the teleportation scrolls in the hands of the mages. With just a thought from Li Cheng, the other party's scrolls would turn into toilet paper. There were also flash and teleportation spells. If they wanted to escape, Li Cheng could simply block it with one thought. At that point, they could only wait for death. As for the 5th attribute, it was a life-saving skill. At any time, any place, and any state, he could directly teleport his troops to the Church of Space. For example, if he was fighting with others and found that he could not beat them halfway through the battle, he could totally use this skill to escape. Unfortunately, the Church of Space had been missing for thousands of years. The number of churches they had was only a few hundred times more than Ella's phantom churches. Thinking of this, Li Cheng's eyes lit up. The space churches were spread across the entire lost continent. If that were the case, could he go to the other alliance's territories? Li Cheng only had this in mind. As for when he could achieve it, that would depend on whether the other alliances would appear before him. If they provoked him, he could definitely test out his new attributes. After looking at the attributes of the blessing, Li Cheng then looked at the last thing the goddess of space gave him. Space God Key. Description: an immortal weapon from the goddess of space. It is connected to her divine power and can gather the spatial energy of the entire universe. Level 1. Type: Special Equipment. Level: Immortal, Tier 9. Effect 1, move resource points to the designated coordinates. No consumption, no cooldown. Effect 2, move a designated area or an unowned building to any location. No consumption, no cooldown. Another Tier 9 Immortal Weapon. It was a special piece of equipment as well, and it was undoubtedly extremely rare. When he saw the attributes of the equipment, Li Cheng started to wonder if he had seen it wrongly. He could only describe the equipment's few skills as abnormal. The first enabled him to move a resource point. This was the first time Li Cheng had seen equipment with such an effect. One had to know that, unlike Li Cheng, resource points were the main source of resources for players. It was also the point of contention for the various large guilds. In the future, a battle might break out at a gold-grade resource point and Li Cheng could simply move the resource points into his own territory. This would be too outrageous. Directly cutting off the other party's path of retreat and leaving them without any resources was akin to cutting off one's bloodline. Resource points were used little by little, or one could just use money to buy them from the exchange hall. If only the latter was the case, it would be better not to play this game as no one could afford it. The second skill was also very strong. In Tribe, once a building was placed down, it could not be moved. The relocation order could only move a building by moving the entire territory, but it could not relocate just a single building. Just like the Church of Light's city wall. When he rebuilt the Immortal Grade city wall, he had to tear down the old city walls first. With this skill, there was no such problem. No matter what building it was, he could just pack it up and move it away. Li Chang had already been teleported out of the secret realm by the goddess of space. She shook her head and did not think too much for the time being. She was strong, so she was not afraid of anything no matter what came. At this stage, it was better not to participate in the affairs between the gods. Using the troops of the shadow world once was enough. If they entered the main plane again, those old guys would really take action. Little Rain sent Li Chang a message. Brother Netherworld, War Soul, and Prideful have already established their guilds. Oh, really? Li Chang looked at the time. He had been in the secret realm for more than 10 hours. Prideful and War Soul were indeed the largest guilds in the Divine Dragon Alliance. He had to admit that their guilds had been established quite early. Of course, since Li Chang and Rose had occupied the top 10 guild slots, the establishment of their guilds did not trigger a world announcement. However, Li Chang still felt that they managed to find their tokens very early. Did they use some special method? At this time, Little Rain excitedly said, "Are we going to fight?" Hearing this, Li Chang rolled his eyes. This rich lady simply thought it was fun. After all, she still trusted her guild's strength. However, Li Chang looked at his newly acquired immortal weapon with a dangerous glint in his eyes. After which, a cold smile appeared on his lips. Of course, get everyone to prepare for the battle. Also, inform Rose and ask them if they have any ideas. This immortal weapon came just in time for his meeting with War Soul and Prideful's guild. Right now, he could only pray that they had enough resources. Otherwise, he didn't mind leaving them with no path to walk. A guild war could only be initiated by the guild leaders. However, newly created guilds had a 3-day protection period, so Li Chang was unable to declare war on the two of them for the time being. Still, it was just 3 days Li Chang was completely capable of waiting. Even if he allowed the other party to develop for 30 years, Li Chang could still completely crush them with his current strength. Chapter 237, Disabling Spatial Magic in Mage City. Li Chang opened his map and countless coordinates appeared. These were the locations of the Church of Space. After thinking for a moment, Li Chang revealed a cold smile and selected a coordinate. Immediately, the system's notification rang in his ear. Ding, dong. You're about to be teleported to the Church of Space in Mage City. Do you confirm? Confirm. As Li Chang pressed the confirm button, a teleportation light suddenly blossomed out of thin air. When it dissipated, the system's voice rang again. Ding, dong. You've entered Mage City's territory. Please, abide by the relevant laws of the country or you'll anger the guards. Ding, dong. Your favorability with the Mage Council of Mage City is -200. Please, be on your guard. Ding, dong. Your appearance has been alerted to the guards. Please, be careful. As the system's voice fell, all kinds of complex and exquisite buildings started to glow. Many of the buildings were floating in the air, looking extremely beautiful. When he saw this, Li Chang could not help but sigh, thinking that this group of mages knew how to enjoy themselves. A young girl appeared in front of Li Chang and asked in a soft voice, "Lord Holy Sun." Li Chang had a strong aura of the goddess of space, especially to her believers who were extremely sensitive to this kind of aura. Li Chang nodded and asked, "Yes, how many believers are there?" 25 in total, the girl answered. Li Chang thought for a moment and continued, "Gather the most devout ones and prepare to move them all to the kingdom of Kent." Hearing Li Chang's words, the girl did not have any doubts and quickly nodded. "Okay, Lord Holy Sun." Li Chang did not say much. This was just a small branch among the churches. The saintess of the goddess of space and the archbishops were all in the headquarters. As for Mage City, they had already reached a stalemate with Li Chang. Although the goddess of magic had signed a truce with him, he was certain that Mage City would definitely be the first to make a move if he was in trouble. Thinking of this, Li Chang walked out of the church. In the next moment, countless teleportation lights appeared in front of Li Chang. Almost all the great mages in Mage City came, staring at Li Chang, wishing they could eat him. Netherworld. You still dare to come to Mage City? What's your purpose for coming here? Kneel and apologize, or don't blame us for being rude. Hearing their words, Li Chang merely picked his ears. This group of mages was really used to being pampered. He wondered where they got the confidence to confront him. At this time, Frank, who was wearing an exquisite blue mage robe, approached Li Chang. He waved his hand to stop the great mages and asked, "Netherworld, why did you come to Mage City?" Li Chang sneered and said, "Why? In the truce agreement we signed, was there a rule that stated I can't be here?" The great mages present were all stunned. This was 2F*ing arrogant. Just a day ago, he had killed countless people in Mage City and depleted 90% of Mage City's crystal reserves. Who would have thought that Li Chang would still dare to come now? Was he really not afraid of death? Li Chang snorted coldly and said, "I'm only here to convey the message of my goddess." What? All the great mages were stunned. Trelafani? What relationship did she have with Mage City? Before they could continue, a rumbling world notification rang in everyone's ears. World notification. For unknown reasons, teleportation spells cannot be used in all of Mage City. World notification. For unknown reasons, all units that enter Mage City from now on are permanently unable to use spatial spells. World announcement. For unknown reasons, all teleportation scrolls, teleportation devices, and teleportation gates leading to Mage City have been rendered ineffective. As the world announcements rang, the players were stunned. No one could understand what had happened. What happened? F***ck, I just came out from a town in Mage City. Isn't this too dangerous? Hiss, this is too uncomfortable for the mages. Everyone, why do I feel that this has something to do with Netherworld Boss? That's right. Netherworld Boss just cleared a secret realm related to space and even fought with Mage City earlier. And now, something has happened to Mage City. If Netherworld Boss doesn't have something to do with it, I won't believe it. Boss, you're really awesome. You must be the current Sherlock Holmes, right? Regarding this matter, the players maintained a neutral attitude. In the eyes of the players, the mages of Mage City were very proud and did not like the players at all. There were not many quests and shops open to players in the entire city, so when the players heard the world announcement, they were all happy about it. However, for the NPCs in Mage City, it was an entirely different scene. The system's various voices were still ringing in the ears of the great mages. Ding, dong. For unknown reasons, your advanced teleportation formation in the Mage Tower has been disabled. Ding, dong. For unknown reasons, your flash has been disabled. Ding, dong. For unknown reasons, your collective teleportation has been disabled. Ding, dong. All the mages widened their eyes as if they had just seen the end of the world. Was this not 2F*ing ruthless? All spatial type skills and spells could no longer be used. Those used by the Mage Towers alone were already very extravagant, not to mention anything else. The mages had put in a lot of effort during the renovation. Each floor was 5 to 6 meters tall, and there were hundreds of floors at a time. If they wanted to go to the top floor in the future, would they have to climb up one floor at a time? Thinking of this, the great mages were in despair. Their small bodies lacked training all year round. If they had to climb, they would rather die. As the president of the Mage Council, Frank was thinking of a lot more. In the future, as long as a mage entered Mage City, they would not be able to use spatial type spells. Resources from the surrounding resource points could not be transported through teleportation devices and could only be transported by manpower. Even the teleportation array leading to Mage City had all failed. Many thoughts flashed through his mind as cold sweat drenched his clothes. If that was the case, Mage City would be finished in no time after that. Who would be willing to come? It would become a dead city. Chapter 238, The Powerful Goddess of Space. Li Chang could not be bothered about what these masters were thinking. If they went against him, they would have to pay the price, right? At this time, the believers of the Church of Space had already packed up and gathered. Li Chang looked over and saw that there were only about 10 of them. This was completely within his expectations. Not all the believers on the lost continent were devout. Li Chang did not waste any time talking to the mages. He simply led all the believers to another Church of Space and teleported from there. Countless great mages were still looking at each other in shock. After a few seconds, they finally reacted. Ah, this! What just happened? How could the Netherworld have such an ability? It's definitely the goddess of space. Only she has such divine power. Hurry up and contact the goddess. Only the goddess can come into contact with the goddess of space's divine power. Hence, these mages began to pray and complain to the goddess of magic. In the goddess of magic's divine kingdom, her expression had already become rather cold. Although she did not care about the matters of the mortal plane and was completely free of her believers, the believers in Mage City definitely accounted for more than 30% of her total believers. If these believers were not properly managed, the goddess of magic's divine power would suffer a great blow. She took a deep breath and said coldly, "Goddess of space, what is the meaning of this?" The ice-cold voice that contained divine power instantly reverberated throughout the entire universe. For a moment, almost all the gods in the entire universe were listening. Moreover, the opponent of the goddess of magic was the goddess of space. The gods were all dumbfounded. If these two goddesses fought, it would really be earth-shattering. Very soon, the goddess of space's indifferent voice was heard. "It's just a superficial meaning." The goddess of magic asked coldly, "Are you trying to start a war with me?" The goddess of space's answer was very straightforward. "If you want to fight, then fight." As the voices of the two goddesses spread throughout the universe, the entire universe became solemn. All the gods were shocked. The goddess of space was an ancient god that had existed since the beginning of the universe. Anyone who became a god after that had a deep fear in their hearts when it came to ancient gods. The goddess of space had just returned. Was she about to start a war with another extremely powerful god? The goddess of magic took a deep breath and continued coldly, "Is this human man really so important to you?" The goddess of space's reply was quick and firm. "That's right, he has surpassed my own life." Once these words were said, the entire universe fell silent, including the goddess of magic, for those were the words of the ancient gods. Kingdom of Kent, Hindley City. Li Chang brought his believers to the Space Church in Hindley City. Although Lino had defined the Phantom Church as the national religion, this did not mean that other churches would be expelled. The only differences were that units that believed in the Phantom Church would have all kinds of incentives, and other churches would not be able to preach in the Kingdom of Kent. There were not many people in the Space Church here, and Li Chang did not think too much about it. At the very least, the believers were safe. Li Chang did not go looking for Lina either. Instead, he led his troops directly to the north of the continent. His target was the end of the northern ice plains, which were almost connected to the deep sea. Taking advantage of the remaining heat from the two large-scale events, he was ready to help Sylvia complete her boundary breakthrough. He casually crushed an immortal grade speed scroll and rushed forward with all his might. This journey took a full 4 hours. Along the way, he passed through the territories of countless wild monsters, including many high-level monsters, as well as several large-scale wild beast tribes in the north. There were many of them and their grades were not low. In Li Cheng's memory, this would be the main battlefield 3 years later. None of the monsters discovered Li Cheng within his shadow of the mist. As they passed by these wild monster resource points, Li Cheng took their resource points with him, leaving behind the confused wild monster tribe. Then, he continued to lead his troops northward, and as they went deeper into the north, the number of living creatures they could see decreased. Half an hour later, there was nothing else they could see apart from a vast expanse of whiteness. Then, there was an iceberg that pierced straight into the sky. Li Chang carefully looked at it as if he was looking for something. A few minutes later, his eyes lit up, and he ordered all the troops to attack. Boom! Ding! Dong! You've discovered a hidden map, the ancient ruins of the Dragon Empire. You've gained 1000 reputation points. Ding! Dong! You've triggered a 10,000 times increase and gained 10 million reputation points. Listening to the system's notification, Li Chang was delighted. It seemed like he had found the right place. The information from Tyavanas was quite reliable. The ancient Dragon Empire was a colossus during ancient times. It was many times older than the Profound Empire. Li Chang waved his hand and led his troops through the crack and walked in. After passing through the narrow passage, the scene in front of them suddenly expanded. Within the huge iceberg, there were countless remains of huge buildings. The overall appearance was huge and strange, and there were countless flat platforms. It seemed that the architectural style here was different from that of humans. It was as if there were countless huge cat trees around the space. It was obvious that this place was meant for flying units. Sylvia raised her head and looked at everything in front of her in shock. She asked, "This is a city built by our ancestors?" Li Chang nodded. The Dragon Empire's resistance to cold is extremely strong. The icebergs here are filled with extremely dense magical energy. It's obvious that they've been reinforced. This should be the ruins of the Dragon Empire. Just as he finished speaking. Roar! 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 Countless dragon roars suddenly resounded. In the ruins ahead, dragons made of magical energy suddenly appeared. Their bodies were transparent as they flew into the air, drawing bright lines in the air behind them. Watching this scene, Li Chang was shocked. The transparent dragons that appeared almost filled up the entire cave. There were thousands of them, and every single dragon here was more than 40 meters long. It was obvious that they were dragons that had been around for many years. Li Chang quickly cast a scouting spell. Golden Dragon, Soul. Description: the soul of a golden dragon after its death. It retains part of its memories from when it was alive. Under the influence of the god of dragon's power, its strength is preserved. Level: 200. Grade: Epic. HP: 14 million. Attack: 45,000. Defense: 75,000. Skills: Dragon's Body, Golden Dragon's Breath, Fatal Pounce, Tier, Dragon Race Characteristic. Chapter 239, Soul Form? Insta-kill. Li Cheng's eyelids twitched when he saw the fully grown golden dragon's souls. Every single one of them was a level 200 epic grade boss, and there were tens of millions of them here. If these dragons were still alive, they would definitely be extremely powerful. Li Chang could only imagine the power of the ancient Dragon Empire when it was still at its peak. However, they were already dead. At this moment, they were souls that had been maintained by magic. They probably would not be able to leave these ruins. At this moment, they were hovering above Li Cheng's troops. They did not attack. Rumble. After a loud rumble, a majestic dragon that was 50 meters long landed in front of Li Cheng. Li Cheng immediately cast a scouting spell. Golden Dragon Dalman's Soul. Description: a powerful golden dragon that once served as the royal guard of the Dragon Empire. When it was alive, its strength was at the peak of mythical grade. After it died, it continued to guard the legacy of the Dragon Empire in the form of a soul body. Grade: Mythical, Tier 9. Level: 200. HP: 800 trillion/800 trillion. Physical/magic attack: 24 million. Defense: 9 million. Skills: the highest level Dragon's Body, Golden Dragon's Breath, Fatal Bite, Ancient Dragon Forbidden Spell, Dragon Realm. Seeing this, Li Chang raised his eyebrows. A mythical grade tier 9 dragon was quite powerful. When it was alive, it should have been second only to an immortal grade dragon. Even its HP was 800 trillion. This was countless times more than the HP of an ordinary god. Not to mention the players, even the NPC kingdoms would find it difficult to hurt this mythical grade dragon. At this time, the dragon's huge eyes were staring at Li Chang. Then, it finally landed on Sylvia. Its eyes focused. You have the dragon god's blood flowing in your body. Sylvia nodded. That's right. The energy in the golden dragon's eyes fluctuated. Its voice was filled with anger. Then, why do you want to be a human slave? Sylvia remained silent. At this moment, Li Chang spoke, his tone cold. She's not a slave. She's a hero in my territory. She's very important to me. Hearing this, Sylvia could not help but roll her eyes at Li Chang. She was not angry at all, but why would Li Chang say such embarrassing words? However, the golden dragon raised its head and laughed. Territory? Haha, when has the dragon race been so willing as to become someone's so-called hero? Sylvia's pretty face immediately turned cold. This is my choice. I don't need you to judge it. The golden dragon replied coldly, ha ha ha. You've truly tarnished the dragon's bloodline. I'll never admit you're a descendant of the dragon god. Now, hurry up and scram. I won't hand over the inheritance to you. As its words fell, it turned its head and faced the sky with its nostrils, ignoring Li Chang and the others. However, Li Chang was a little dumbfounded. Who was the one who gave this dead dragon the confidence to insult Sylvia in front of him? It even said that it was not going to hand over the inheritance. Were they here to inherit the inheritance? They were here to take it. As for whether it was going to hand over the inheritance or not, this dragon soul did not have the right to say such words. Li Chang sneered and said, we came to take the inheritance ourselves. Also, no one, not even the god of creation, has the right to insult my hero. After saying that, Li Chang waved his hand, and countless troops began to move instantly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Arrows covered with frost instantly formed an ice net, enveloping the countless dragon souls. In just an instant, their health bars were emptied and the system's voice rang. Ding, dong. Your troops have triggered the instant death effect. The golden dragon souls have died. Ding, dong. Countless dragon souls turned into specks of light, completely disappearing into the air. Seeing this scene, the golden dragon immediately roared, Human, you actually dare to attack the great dragon empire? Li Chang sneered and replied, Hee, the great dragon empire? It has long been destroyed. You're merely a soul body that's struggling to survive. So, you should die, too. As he finished speaking, Li Chang waved his staff lightly. Whoosh! A pitch-black energy ball flew towards its huge body, and the golden dragon's pupil shrank. As the imperial guard of the Dragon Empire, it was naturally experienced in battles. However, it was this small energy ball in front of it that made it feel the fear and trepidation from deep within its soul. It hurriedly flapped its huge wings, trying to escape into the sky. Li Chang looked at it with disdain and said only one word, die. In the next moment, the energy ball accurately hit its body. Two words appeared above the dragon's head. Instant death. Then, the system's notification rang in Li Chang's ears. Ding, dong. You've triggered the instant death effect. The golden dragon Dalman's soul body has died. Li Chang looked at the soul that was dissipating with disdain. If it was any other unit, Li Chang might have needed to activate a few more skills. However, with regards to soul bodies, he could only apologize. With the goddess of death's supreme blessing, soul bodies would be instantly killed. It did not matter how much HP it had. Even if it was an immortal grade soul body, it would be instantly killed with a single attack. This was the goddess of death's supreme suppressive effect on spirits. With the death of the golden dragon Dalmans, there was no suspense in the entire battle. What was left was a one-sided massacre. Li Cheng's troops had triggered the instant death effect on these spirits and they would all die with a single touch. For a moment, the dragon souls scattered throughout the entire space. Li Cheng gave the goddess of death a thumbs up in his heart. However, at this moment, the goddess of death unexpectedly replied with an expression. "Oh, good." Li Cheng was a little speechless. Why did he feel an expression suddenly appear in the depths of his soul? After knowing that the goddess of death had replied to him, the corner of Li Cheng's mouth twitched. He did not think too much about it for the time being. He turned to look at Sylvia's perfect side profile and said, "Don't worry. The future of the dragon tribe will definitely be even more glorious. Even the dragon empire at its peak can only catch a glimpse of your back. This is my promise to you." Hearing these words, Sylvia's originally dazed face revealed a faint, beautiful smile. But she soon stopped, rejoicing in her heart. She almost revealed her feelings. Chapter 240, Sylvia, who are you looking down on? Sylvia quickly put on a cold expression. Humph. Who needs your proof? Li Cheng rolled his eyes. He did not know what to do with this arrogant dragon princess. The battle lasted for more than half an hour. Li Cheng's troops successfully annihilated all the dragon souls. At the same time, Li Cheng arrived at the depths of the ruins. An extremely spacious hall appeared. In the middle of the hall was a throne covered in ice and snow, and in front of the throne, there was a long sword embedded in ice. Seeing this scene, Sylvia cast a questioning gaze at Li Cheng. Li Cheng nodded at her. Sylvia took a deep breath and walked to the long sword and gently wrapped her hand over the sword's hilt. In the next moment, a bright light was instantly released. A terrifying golden dragon that was hundreds of meters long appeared. Its body was huge and majestic. Even Sylvia's dragon form looked very small in front of it. Seeing this, Li Cheng immediately cast a scouting spell. Golden Dragon King Uriel, Soul. Description: the last monarch of the ancient dragon empire. He was very powerful and remembered by many immortal gods. After his death, his soul was preserved through the ancient dragon's forbidden spell. Grade: Immortal. Level: 200. HP: Physical/Magic Attack. Defense. Skills. The last monarch of the ancient dragon empire blinked when he saw Li Cheng. Wine and women were all turned into souls, but they also had immortal grade strength. From the looks of it, the ancient dragon empire was quite powerful. However, this was not the so-called dragon god. The dragon god that all dragons spoke of was the master of the dragon soul, an existence that was even older than the dragon empire itself. It was rumored that when the dragon god was in power, it was surrounded by demons, and the dragon race was only one of the races it had control over. At that time, the dragon race was only immortal grade. There were probably dozens of them, but they seemed to have been killed by the dragon god. As Li Cheng was thinking, the golden dragon king in front of him said in a dignified voice, "My descendant, I didn't expect you to be able to come here and get Dalmans's approval. Not bad." Hearing this, Li Cheng did not wait for him to finish. He picked his ear and said, "It's not that difficult getting his approval. I just killed him." What? The golden dragon king's pupils shrank. He was aware of Dalmans's strength. He was not invincible in the main plane, but his strength was still very rare. How could such an existence be killed? The golden dragon king stared at Li Cheng. "He, Junior, are you a god who defected to the human race?" Li Cheng had the aura of a few goddesses on him, so naturally, the golden dragon king regarded Li Cheng as the spokesperson of the gods. The golden dragon king continued to snort coldly. "Forget it. Borrowing external forces is also one way of doing it. Now, I'll bestow you with supreme power. Do it, junior of my race." As long as you kill this human, I'll hand over all the inheritance of the Dragon Empire to you. As soon as he finished speaking, the Golden Dragon King's body suddenly burst with a dazzling light that entered Sylvia's body. The system notifications rang in Li Cheng's ears. Ding, dong. For unknown reasons, your hero, Frost Dragon Princess Sylvia, has received a 99,999% increase in attack, defense, attack speed. Ding, dong. Your hero, Frost Dragon Princess Sylvia, is in danger of rebelling. Please, be on your guard. Ding, dong. For unknown reasons, your hero, Frost Dragon Princess Sylvia, has broken free from your control. Li Cheng was slightly surprised. With Sylvia's current attributes, they were actually able to be increased so much? Was she invincible now? It seemed that the Dragon Empire had a special method to increase the combat strength of dragons. Sylvia's name had turned white. This meant that she had become a neutral faction. The contract that Li Cheng had signed with her was immediately removed. At this moment, Sylvia took a deep breath. She slowly raised the snow-white longsword in her hand. Then, whoosh! She threw the sword fiercely. In an instant, it pierced the Golden Dragon King's body. The Golden Dragon King did not react at all as his health bar was completely emptied. Then, the system notifications rang in Li Cheng's ears. Ding, dong. Frost Dragon Princess Sylvia has returned to your territory. Ding, dong. Your hero, Frost Dragon Princess Sylvia, has successfully killed Immortal Grade Golden Dragon King Uriel and obtained 900 billion experience points and an eighth of the Dragon Empire's Reconstruction Authority. Ding, dong. You've triggered a 10,000 times increase and obtained 9,000 trillion experience points and the complete Dragon Empire Reconstruction Authority. Ding, dong. You've received a new quest, Former Empire. Ding, dong. Ding, dong. Your hero, Frost Dragon Princess Sylvia, has completed a boundary breakthrough. The upper limit of her level has been unlocked. Ding, dong. Your hero, Frost Dragon Princess Sylvia, has gained a new skill. Ding, dong. All of this was within Li Cheng's expectations. After reincarnating, Li Cheng believed that he had a good judge of character. Although Sylvia was a dragon, Li Cheng had a good understanding of her personality. The Golden Dragon King had given her the so-called inheritance, hoping Sylvia would betray him. This was looking down on Sylvia too much. With regards to soul bodies, they could still be killed instantly, regardless of whether they were at immortal grade or not. Li Cheng looked at his own gains. This wave could be said to be a bloody profit. First of all, Sylvia unlocked a new skill. After breaking through the boundary, she had comprehended an extremely terrifying skill. Bloodline Power. Description: a skill from the Dragon God. It can forcefully activate the bloodline of all dragons. Effect: after activation, all dragon units will gain a 500% increase in attack and defense. Dragon's breath cooldown period is reduced by 80%. Lasts for 1 day. Cooldown: 7 days. This skill could be said to be a very powerful explosive skill. With the dragon's high attributes, once the skill was activated, they would definitely become an extremely terrifying existence. Moreover, the duration of the skill was very long, lasting for an entire day. Next was the authority to reconstruct the Dragon Empire. He could establish a kingdom. Thinking of this, Li Cheng's breathing suddenly stopped. Establishing a kingdom was the final step of a guild.